Saint Francis of Assisi is the founder of all Franciscan orders and the patron saint of animals and the environment. When we think of Saint Francis, we think of images of doves, birds, animals, perhaps a wolf at his feet. The image of the wolf comes from the story of the Wolf of Gubbio, a simple yet profound and meaningful story for our lives today.
Not all that long ago, I was in California visiting the missions. And in doing so, you run across many different statues of St. Francis, and one of which is that famous statue of Francis of Assisi with the Wolf of Gubbio that he tamed. As I was standing there by one of the statues, there was a tour guide who was asked a question by a member in his group. The question was very simple. Tell me this story of the Wolf of Gubbio. And the tour guide looked up at the sky and then to the people and simply said, it was a very bad wolf. And it terrorized the people. And Francis came and he simply tamed the wolf because all animals loved him. End of story. I said, well, that captures the heart of it in a nutshell, the story of St. Francis and the Wolf of Gubbio, but misses quite a bit along the way. The story of St. Francis and the wolf has to do more with the people in Gubbio. Could there have been a wolf that was terrorizing the people that Francis tamed in his lifetime? Assuredly, that's a possibility. But as the story is told in our Franciscan community, we remember that there were two factions in the town of Gubbio at the time of St. Francis, and they were bitter enemies. And when Francis came, he spoke to the people. He spoke to the people, and through his intercession in a very particular way, the people of Gubbio found peace. And that particular way is found in the text of the story of Francis and the Wolf of Gubbio, because it says very specifically toward the end of the story that St. Francis inserted the community of friars into the town. And this isn't just a passing reference, but I believe the heart of the story, because it was in modeling Franciscan fraternity, our common way of life, our living the peace of Christ or the gospel of Jesus together in community, that we witnessed to the town of how life can and should be lived in peace and harmony. And thereby, Francis, with the friars, tamed the wolf of violence that lived in the hearts of the people in Gubbio, in helping them to live a different way. My sisters and brothers, this story of St. Francis captures the heart of what it means to have a Franciscan viewpoint on our world today. Just recently, a couple years ago, we found a long-lost manuscript of an early biography of St. Francis by his first biographer, one of our friars, Thomas of Celano. And in this early biography of St. Francis, Thomas tells of how St. Francis exemplified three very particular things. First, he exemplified friendship. Second, that role of servant. And third, he became a standard bearer. To everyone that Francis met, he called them brother, he called them sister, and he became friend, extending a hand of friendship. And then St. Francis didn't stop there. Like Jesus at that Last Supper, he took off his garments and he knelt down and washed the feet of others by caring for others in whatever circumstance he found them in, whether it be a listening ear or a helping hand. He, like Jesus, became the servant. And then Francis became the standard bearer. The standard bearer was always one who would lift high a very important message, and his standard was that of Christ. And the motto that he would wave on that flag as he waved it up high in his standard was a very simple one. Pax et bonum. Peace and all good things. At that Last Supper, Jesus said to his disciples, "Peace is my gift to you." Jesus' peace, his gift to his apostles, his gift to the world, comes through St. Francis and that saying of Pax et bonum, that wish of peace and goodness to exist as we live in harmony with one another in this world today. as we consider one with another, our wolves that we encounter today. There's one very particular one. A wolf of Gubbio that exists in our world today is that of climate change. And it is a wolf that is ravaging our world and one another, because we have chosen camps, chosen perspectives, and many people have many different views on this. We do well to follow in the footprints of Jesus through following the example of St. Francis by first and foremost, regardless of what anybody's understanding of the wolf of climate change is, or climate, or our relationship with nature and one another, is in the example of St. Francis to make friends. To make friends with those who disagree with us. And also, very importantly, to make personal friends with God's creation. St. Francis is well known for that famous canticle of creation that he wrote, where he called the sun his brother and the moon his sister. And he speaks of our mother, sister, Mother Earth, who sustains and governs us with all the beauty of creation that she offers to us. So in a very concrete way, it's our call today to be the friend, not only of one another, but of nature as well. And to also be the servant. The servant to others who might disagree with us when we think about the wolf of climate change and how it affects our world today, to listen to their perspectives, and by getting to know them and being their friend and their servant, perhaps by our example of having a very concrete relationship of brother and sister with creation, we might change hearts. We might show another path, another perspective, as we do that not alone, but in the context of our own Christian community, who sees ourselves as a community and as individuals very much intimately linked to this gift of nature that God has given to us, that God has asked us to care for and to be careful with, as servants do. Last but not least, we're called, like Francis, to raise a standard of peace and of goodness, to wave a flag high that calls others to join us at our table. To join us at our table so that we might break bread together and find that peace that Jesus offered. And my sisters and brothers, that happens for us when each and every one of us, individually and collectively at the table, use our moral imaginations and our conversations with one another to come up with new and creative ways that we might engage one another, engage that wolf of climate change, and build communities of peace and justice, as St. Francis and the friars did so long ago in that little Italian town of Gubbio. So we are called to do in our little towns today. Peace and all good things. Pax et bonum.
Where do we see or experience the wolf of Gubbio in our lives? How do you model or witness the call to live in harmony with others and with all of creation? St. Francis calls us to befriend creation, become servants of creation, and be standard bearers for creation. Together, let us befriend the wolf of Gubbio, the wolf of climate change, and work to care for creation and care for the poor.